Well, hey, hello. We're gonna get started today in the dining room. Like we're just diving straight into this project, which is what we're doing. We're gonna do a little sewing, we're gonna do a little stitching. Huzzah! So I picked up this fabric a while back at Remainders. Is there like a single video nowadays where I don't talk about Remainders? My favorite crafting thrift store. Also apparently one of the only ones. I was observing the very interesting weave and I thought that looks like something you could cross stitch on, kind of like Aida. Is it pronounced Aida? I've never actually checked that, but Aida is how you pronounce the name of the musical. This one. So that's how I pronounce the fabric too. So I started thinking, what if I cross-stitched on it? But not in a normal decorative way. Oh no. In a wearable art way. Yeah, anyway. Oh, I just spaced out there. So my hope here is to make a skirt, hopefully a circle skirt because my favorite, and hopefully turn that skirt into a dress because I'm really trying to stop making skirts. I don't actually wear skirts all that often. I'm starting to wear them more now because there's so many in my closet now, but I prefer a dress because the very practical and efficient side of my brain likes to put on as few articles of clothing as possible. So if there's just one thing that I can put on, then that is what I prefer. But to finish it off, I want to do not just some cross-stitching on it because that would be very small or it would take very long. I actually want to try doing something that I saw on this amazing Instagram account, Virtuous Courtesan. She sews incredible clothing, and once upon a time she made a dress that I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, was almost all out of burlap, and she did this oversized, giant, chunky cross-stitching on it. That's what I want to try here. If it turns out like I'm imagining, it'll be a frickin' adorable sundress. But there are many places where this could go wrong. Before I even try to start planning out the cross-stitch design or getting yarn for that or spending any time on that whatsoever, I want to make sure I have enough fabric to actually make the thing. I'm gonna start by cutting out a circle skirt using the good old normal circle skirt calculation thing, whatever that is. It's been 5 days, so I forget. And then whatever fabric is left over, I'll see if I can cobble out some sort of bodice. I'm kind of imagining a bodice similar to what I did on my 10 circle skirts dress. Oh my gosh, my golly.
This fabric quickly began kicking my butt.
Okay.
First, as I realized that although it's non-stretch, it is exceptionally quick to shift around and not be straight.
Why was this so hard to flatten out?
Can't really mark on it with the drawing utensil, and it's even hard to stick pins in it as they get stuck in the differing thread directions somehow. Cutting through 4 layers straight up killed my hand.
Ow!
And every raw edge immediately started shredding to bits.
Ooh, I do not like that. Okay.
Y'all, this is gonna be fun.
Let's bring ponchos back.
I didn't have a whole lot of fabric left, but it seemed like enough to make a simple bodice. I pulled out my 3,600 degree circle dress for reference and proceeded to do the most lackadaisical pattern drafting I have ever done. Straight up Hakuna Matata this crap. But I ended up with something resembling a bodice, and surprise of all surprises, it seems to fit.
Y'all, this fabric is stressing me out! Stop shedding! Please don't shed!
I needed a lining then, both because this fabric will not be that pleasant next to the skin, and because I wanted to hide the back of whatever stitching I add to it. For the bodice, I used a thicker, slightly stretchy material, but for the skirt, I went for a very thin and light muslin I had on hand. Cutting those layers was such a delight after the blue stuff.
Oh yeah.
Starting with the straps, I got those sewn up and turned right side out, and yes, I am using my toes to help me there. Sometimes you need a third hand, and y'all, do not discount the abilities of your toes.
10 out of 10 recommend.
Then it was simply a matter of putting together the lining panels and adding the lining to the front of the bodice.
Boom shakalaka.
Honestly, I wasn't planning on doing so much construction prior to adding the cross-stitching, but I simply cannot with all this fraying. I cannot. I need to get those edges turned up, turned in, turned over, and hidden as quickly as possible.
I think it'll work.
Onto the skirt then, I decided to add welt pockets instead of side seam pockets, really just so that I could avoid cutting more than one slit into the currently fully connected circle. I've done these welt pockets once before on one of my pleated skirts, and I found the process really straightforward and easy to get through, so I'm happy to give it another go. I like the results.
Hi. Oh, a good stretchy, yay.
Hi.
You're walking over a whole pile of pins. Oh, stinky breath. Hello? Mwah. Oh no. Why you gotta walk right over my pins? It's so dangerous. Yeah.
Finally, I decided to sew the lining to the front of the skirt around the bottom so that I can flip it right side out and get a nice, clean, non-fraying hem. This was easier said than done since apparently I managed to cut out two completely different size circles.
I don't know how I managed to cut out the lining and the actual fabric. So incredibly different from each other, but I did.
This is gonna give me issues tomorrow, I just know it.
Let's try this again, huh? Hello? Check back next week to see if I finally figured out how to pin two circles together. Ah! Good morning! We're starting today in the unfurnished living room because I need a nice flat surface where I can spread this skirt out that is not covered in bits of blue gunk, aka all of the threads that this skirt has shed. There's also a buttload of reverberation out here because there's no furniture. I think I've constructed this dress as much as I can or should before I start the actual stitching, but I really needed to cover that hem. It was driving me insane. I do not have a lot of experience with cross stitch, so I don't really know what I'm doing here, but it's time to come up with a design for this. And in the spirit of winging it, I thought maybe I would do butterflies, like flying up the skirt. I also thought maybe bees would be really cute because yellow would look super cute on this blue. And then I could maybe do like some lavender around the bottom. I don't know, but I do still like the idea of the butterflies. The question is also, how big am I making the cross stitch X's? Maybe I should test this first. Because wouldn't it suck if it didn't work? Yeah, I think I'm gonna test this first. Okay, so I've got a bunch of different sizes of yarn here, and then I also brought my crewel wool and my tapestry wool, because if these don't work, that's the next option. Where's my big ass needles? Let's just start with this white stuff. I can't decide if I'm struggling with this project right now because the dress is giving me problems, because the fabric is annoying, or because I am just struggling with projects. I'm going through one of those periods where I start feeling guilty that I don't have a normal job. So that's like a a 3x3. It's cute, but it's definitely not what I was originally thinking. I was originally thinking much bigger than this. So we've got a 3x3, a 4x4, and a 5x5. I think the 5x5 is more what I'm thinking. So there's what it looks like with multiple next to each other. I mean, I'm leaning towards this stuff. This is the really like soft, fuzzy stuff, and it definitely doesn't have to be like that, but I think this width is the best width. And I really think I need to do the 5x5 because otherwise it's not really reading as like the oversized cross stitch. So I need yarn this big, which means I'm gonna have to go shopping. But first, I do have to figure out the design because I need to know what colors to buy. I sketched out a few just sort of ideas here, and I think I am leaning towards, hi Trotty Paws, can you stop trotting around? So nice. I quickly sketched out a butterfly and then like lavender with a bee, and I do think I'm leaning towards the lavender with a bee. And then I tried to get like mathematical, and I went to Photoshop and tried to like create a grid so that I could actually grid out a cross-stitch design, and that failed immediately. I am going to wing it even more than I thought I'd be winging it because we're literally gonna like freehand on this skirt. We're off to Joanne. Alrighty, we have some yarn. Went to Michael's instead of Joanne. Their yarn selection is not as vast, but I think that was good because the last time I tried to buy yarn at Joanne, I was just incredibly overwhelmed by all of the choices. Not as many choices here, so I got it done faster. Hopefully this is a good thickness. It seemed similar to the stuff I was using before. The only black thread that I could find, or black yarn, is thinner, but I can always just double this over and do 2 strands and I think it'll be okay. So that is that, but I also got a coloring book and coloring pencils because I am in a weird mood today. And in an effort to stabilize my brain, I think I'm gonna go color for as long as it takes, even if that means I get nothing else productive done today, which is a tough choice for me. But you know what? We do what we gotta do. And at this moment, coloring sounds delightful.
And color I did, although first I got fabulously dirty helping Matt with a project in his studio, which honestly did a lot to shift my mood in itself. Matt and I work together very well, and I often miss that from our cruise ship days, so it's always nice to take on any little project alongside him, even if it's just cooking dinner. I returned to the dress the next morning with much more interest and just kinda went for it. It's not really looking like I imagined, but I can't really see a way to make this much neater, other than putting the top stitch in the same direction on every X, which like, sorry, I can't be bothered. I do think the overall image will be cute in the end. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect and even and symmetrical and straight. It's just a fun skirt.
So we have a garden of flowers, lavender-ish, perhaps more like bluebonnets. I did get like a very dark purple for some reason. I'm satisfied with it. I am satisfied because I am lowering my standards. And that is okay, y'all. That is sometimes just okay. So next up, I want to add the little bee to it. I've kind of marked out with pins the size and placement, but this is gonna be a lot more risky when it comes to winging it. There's just a lot more chance of this looking not even remotely like a bee. These at least remotely look like flowers, even if they're a little wonky. And then that's pretty much it. I say that, but again, that'll probably be the rest of today. Just figuring out bees, setting my standards real low in an attempt to be proud of myself later when I perhaps finish it faster than I expected. This is how you trick your brain, yay!
I managed to get a recognizable B shape on there, right? You recognize that as a B, right? Okay, good. I added another little guide to the bodice, now realizing that I could be done with the stitching before lunch. Great joy! Completed him with a little running stitch flight line, so cute, and then, dare I hope that it is time to construct this dress and cover all remaining fraying edges for good? Huzzah! This could end poorly. Remember when I said this may end poorly? It could also start poorly because I didn't use my brain. Wasn't supposed to sew through the bodice lining. That's supposed to go on top. Good times. It's fine. At least I noticed before I even got halfway. Let's try this again. This better look good. Look good for me, please. I think it might be okay. Probably, maybe. How on earth did a pin get into my sweater? Like that? With the head inside? It's a dangerous life I'm living here. Could be stabbed at any moment. Y'all, it is not spring yet. Hi! Are you here to put more muddy paw prints on my dress? On my new dress that I just finished making and you've already put muddy paw prints on? Someone's feeling needy today. So I'm a little chilly after all that. And Matt is taking forever to get out of bed this morning, so we're in his studio. I have just stolen his space. You snooze, you lose. You know, this was a fun project. It was. The idea of the chunky cross-stitching, I would honestly love to explore that further in maybe a more like planned out and proper way. Normally, if you're going to embroider in any form on a piece of clothing that you're going to make that is not already made, you would like mark out the pattern pieces on the fabric and then secure it properly, embroider on the fabric, then cut out the actual pattern pieces and put together the garment. Clearly that is not what I did. And clearly that made it kind of a little more stressful. Honestly, the stress of this project purely comes down to this fabric. It was just falling apart in my hands, and I can't stand that. That's like the worst thing for me when I'm sewing, is fabric that is just shredding off the ends as I go. So the second that I covered the last raw edge of this dress, I was like, yep, everything is fine now, everything is good. But granted, that was also like the second I was done with the dress altogether. And it's a pretty cute dress, I'll give it that. The construction of the dress, a little bit wonky, not to just like draw attention to my boobs, but there's definitely something weird in the boob portion of this dress. It was giving me like double boobs when I put it on, and it probably still is. I think basically this seam right here, or rather the original pattern pieces themselves, was curved out well about to here, and then after that it doesn't have enough curve. I think it cuts in too quickly, so it's trying to like cut my boobs off here, but my boobs are bigger than that, so it's just making this like bloop second boob. I already have the whole second boob rib cage thing. This comes from my mom's genes. All of us have rib cages that like stick out and are visible. So now it's like I have triple boobs. Good times. We live and we learn. So yeah, fun project, cute dress, did a thing. Also, I've continued to color for the last few days, and let me just tell you, it's been a delight. I have filled in the first 2 pages. Oh, there's a color palette test page on the back. What? That is exactly what I needed earlier. I think continuing to color is going to be a good choice for me. First of all, because one of my biggest struggles, I think, in most creative fields is color theory. I am not good at selecting color palettes and just like knowing what colors to put together. We had a class in college where we did the study of the whole color palette and which colors go with which across the fields, and I get that. It's really hard for me to put it into practice for some reason. So I'm hoping that, first of all, coloring might help me develop a better use of color, if that makes sense. But also, I think it's a really good idea for me to have something that I can do that is in no way whatsoever related to work or my job. I of course have an embroidery piece that I'm always working on that I'm not filming, it's not for anyone, there's no deadline for it, so it's kind of my non-work project. But sometimes, because I've already been doing so much sewing throughout the day, I want something that is not sewing, something that is totally disconnected. For a while it was playing Animal Crossing, but I got bored of that after about 2 months. Sorry, Animal Crossing. You're boring. So now it's coloring, and I look forward to being able to flip through this book one day and just see nothing but color. It'll be gorgeous. Anyway, that was a whole side tangent, but you know, that's what's happening in my life right now. Hope you enjoyed this fun little springy project before spring actually arrives. If you live in a place where spring will not be around for a long time, I'm sorry. Hopefully this brightened your very cold days. Whatever the temperature may be in your locale, I hope this video made your day warmer. Okay, bye! My stomach is making some incredible noises right now. Seriously, like every 30 seconds, my stomach is like, ooh, I made a swastika on the back. Awkward. Let's do some understitching. Pockets.